Okay, so now we're going to move to example 4. There's a typo, it should say example 3. And it's finding the area of composite figures by adding. So what a composite figure is I'm taking all of the formulas, or not all of them, but a lot of the shapes from our orange sheet, and I'm going to kind of stick them together. And so I want to find the area of all different shapes and then add them all up. So make sure you have that orange sheet handy. So this first one that we're going to do here, if you notice, we have a triangle, we have a rectangle, and we have a semicircle or a half circle. So I like to write that down first. And of course I'm going to do it in different colors. So I have a rectangle, I have a triangle, and I have a semicircle. Okay, so I'm going to do it all separate. I'm going to find the rectangle, find the triangle, find the semicircle. So let's first look at that rectangle. So if you remember from your orange sheet, the area of a rectangle, it doesn't say rectangle but a parallelogram, it's just your base times your height. Okay. It doesn't matter if I do 4 times 7 or 7 times 4. Either way, I'm going to get 28. So I'm 1/3 of the way done with this problem. Now I'm going to look at this triangle. So if I look at this triangle, I'm going to turn my paper a little bit. I notice that it's a 90-degree angle triangle here. So my formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I have my height, but I don't know what that base is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that Pythagorean theorem to find my base. So if you remember, my hypotenuse is 5.7. So I'm just going to call that x. X squared plus 4 squared equals 5.7 squared. X squared plus 16 equals, I'm going to plug 5.7 squared into a calculator. I get 32.49. If I subtract 16 over here, I'm going to get 16.49. And the square root of 16.49, square root of 16.49 is going to be about 4.06. So I'm going to round that to about just 4. I can do 4.1. Right? So my triangle formula is 1/2 base times height. My base is 4.1. My height is 4. 1/2 4.1 times 4. I get 8.2. So I have 8.2. And last but not least, that semicircle. If you remember on your orange sheet, the formula for a circle is pi r squared. So if I want to find half of a circle, I'm going to do 1/2 pi r squared. So the only variable I'm plugging in is my radius, which would be this 4 right here. So I'm going to do 1/2 pi 4 squared. And I get about 25.1. So now to find my entire area, I'm going to add 28 from my rectangle, plus 8.2 from my triangle, plus 25.1 from my semicircle, and I get 61.3. It's all in feet. Feet squared. All right, let's try another one. So now this is a big, confusing looking figure, but I could draw a line right here and split it up to be a trapezoid and a rectangle. I could also draw a line here. It would also be a rectangle and a trapezoid. So I'm going to just do it across the bottom. So I am going to add a trapezoid. And a rectangle. So let's ignore this and look at my trapezoid. My trapezoid formula is 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. My height of this whole thing, it's not going to be 12. The whole thing is 12. So if down here, if this part is 5, that means the height of my trapezoid is going to be 7. My first base is 8. My second base is going to be parallel to this. It's going to be 15. So let's plug that into our calculator. 1/2, 7, 8 plus 15, and we get 80.5. So now I'm going to just add that rectangle part. So my rectangle is just base times height. My base, my height. $15 times 5 is 75. I'm going to add 75 to 80.5 to get my entire figure is 155.5 inches squared. All right, last one. I have a semicircle and I have this figure here, which kind of looks like a trapezoid, but I can't figure out what the height is without breaking that up and making it a triangle right here. So I'm going to kind of draw a little triangle right here. So I can still do a semicircle and a trapezoid. But I can't find the height without doing a little Pythagorean theorem there. So if this whole thing is 31 from here over, and this part is 22, then the difference here and over would be 9, because 22 plus 9 equals that whole thing of 31. So now to find the height of my trapezoid, and really the radius of my semicircle, I'm going to have to do the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to have x squared plus 9 squared equals 15 squared. X squared plus 81 equals 225. When I subtract 81, I get 144. The square root of that is going to be 12. So my height here is going to be 12. So when I go over to my trapezoid, I have 1/2 height, base 1 plus base 2. My height is 12. Remember, I'm now looking at this whole thing, so my whole base is 31 and my whole base here is 22. I'm going to plug that into your calculator. 1/2 12, 22 plus 31, and I get 318. So now I just have to finish with the semicircle. So if you remember, like we did earlier, the semicircle is going to be 1/2 of pi r squared. So we don't really know what our radius is, though. It's not labeled. But if we go back over here, remember this whole thing was 12. So if I want to split this up, it's going to be 6 and 6. So 6 will be my radius. So I have 1/2 pi 6 squared, and it's about 56.5. So I'm going to add up 318 plus 56.5 and get 374.5 for the entire figure. There you have it.